I'd love to talk about the differences in the consulates and what you see in Canada versus some other consulates where, for example, in Latin America, a lot of these consulates want to see the business open. They want to see a couple of employees hired, where that hasn't necessarily been the case in Canada, where it's been fine maybe not having the business open yet. And then other consulates like Pakistan, Egypt, they really hone on the intent to go back home
Right.
and the connections that you have to Pakistan, the connections you have to Egypt, to show that eventually plan to go back home, after that initial E2 visa period.
Yeah, so the way that these are adjudicated can be quite different, as you're mentioning, across various consulates. By far, I personally work with a lot of Canadians, so dealing with the U.S. consulate in Toronto has been sort of my main E2 consulate that I've been dealing with. But over the years, we have dealt with a number of consulates, as you're mentioning. It could be in South America and Europe, and in Asia. And the adjudication, you have to know the little intricacies for what these consulates are looking for in order to best be able to apply appropriately, right? There are consulates where there is no even like a strict page limitation, right? With what's being provided, you can put everything together and send it off without having to worry about that. Whereas at the U.S. consulate in Toronto, for example, they're really making it a lot more streamlined, right? We have to get the application down to 50 pages now, right? Not too long ago, it was
They
70
reduced it.
pages, and now they reduced another
Yeah.
20. But I think that's also because they're getting there's an increase in the number of E2 applications, and you find that these E2 officers, they do move from one consulate to the next, but I think there is a inherent way that these E2s are adjudicated depending on where the consulate is. And as you mentioned, I mean, we had some clients in Pakistan where, yeah, they did want to see what kind of ties the individuals had, whether it's in Pakistan, or maybe they are a Pakistani national but permanent resident elsewhere. They still need to establish that they are residing, they're intending to return to the country of residence. In some consulates, I find that although there is no minimum investment that's required from an E2 perspective, besides the fact that it has to be a substantial investment. So you won't find in the regulations a minimum threshold defined. In Toronto, for example, we've had a lot of leniency, I feel, depending on the nature of the business, as to this minimum substantial investment that's being invested for a particular business. But in some consulates elsewhere, that threshold is higher.